Mhm.
Hi, my name is Tara Schumacher. I'm one of the assistant directors of admissions here at Salis University. I do admissions for our post-baccalaureate speech language pathology program, which I affectionately call PBSLP. So we have one of our former students from our program here tonight to talk a little bit about our program and where she's at now and how the program helped her. So Lena, please introduce yourself and tell us where you're from, where you went to undergrad, and what you studied.
All right. So my name is Lena, but the majority of everyone knows me by LJ. I went to Salis about a year ago for the post-bac program. Now I am at Westchester University and their graduate SLP program. For undergrad, I went to Penn State Abington and I majored in psychology and social sciences.
Why the changing career? What drew you to SLP?
Yeah. So at first, my brain was like, I'm going to be a psychologist. I was an undergrad. I was ready to go. As soon as I graduated, I did want to go to a master's program for psychology. But then the pandemic happened. And like everyone, my story isn't really that unique. My world got upside down, just like the whole entire world, and their lives were upside down. I needed to take care of my family. And so I couldn't go to school and continue school. I went into human resources and I did that for about a year and a half. And I really wasn't happy because I really wasn't doing what I wanted to do. I was just kind of thrown into the workforce just to try to take care of my family. And even though I'm proud of that, my family noticed that like I really wasn't happy. And so once everyone was kind of in a stable place, after like 2 years after the pandemic, year and a half, I still knew I wanted to do some type of therapy, but I think I kind of outgrew psychology. My personality and just growing a little bit more and maturing a little bit more, I noticed that I still wanted to do therapy, but I wanted to do something a little bit more hands-on. And as I was doing my research, SLP came up and I read about it and I was just like, this is what I want to do. I still doing therapy, but I can be a little bit more hands-on with my clients. And I thought this was perfect. And here we are.
What made you think about doing a postbac?
So, since in order to be an SLP, you had to get your master's. And because I did an undergrad in communication sciences, communication disorder sciences, I had to do a postbac in order to kind of get those credits under my belt in order to apply for a master's program.
Why did you choose Solace?
Well, one of the main reasons Salis was very, very close to me at the time. I was living around Jenkintown, Elkins Park. So distance wise was going to be perfect since I still had to work and also go to school. Not working wasn't an option for me. So Salis was really good location wise. But then also, I remember Bob emailing me and a bunch of other students that if we wanted a tour that we could, and even if it was just me and him, it would be okay. And that made me feel so warm and like there's just warm, welcoming feeling like, wow, like this person who is running a department is going to take time out of his day to just like give me a tour of the school. And that sat very well with me. And that told me a lot about just the department and how you guys run things at Salis. And coming from Penn State Abington, that was a very small school. I really liked that. And I really thrived in smaller schools. And Bob really gave me that same feeling. So I was just like, I want to come here. It seems like the staff is going to be very supportive.
Let's clue in our listeners. Bob is our Professor Robert
Yeah.
Sariani, who's the program director of our master's program, our fearless leader for all things SLP. My next question for you is, what is your favorite part of the post-bac program at Solace?
Man, I mean, I know the program is going to grow from now on. So, but for us, as we were starting, we were at first in the summer, it was just three, me, Mira, and Dev. And then once the fall started, two to three more came on. So we were like a group of five or six. And it was just so nice. We were just like a little tribe. And also the professors as well. They were fantastic. Any questions that we had, they were just there to help us, and they kept reminding us that they were there just to help us and for us to learn and be successful and thrive. So my little tribe I loved, and also just how supportive the teachers were.
Now that you're in a master's program, how did you feel the post-bac prepared you for it?
Oh my gosh. I am so glad that you asked that, because after leaving the post-bac program and going into my orientation for Westchester, since I didn't do my undergrad at Westchester, those students had to take a neural exam, just to make sure that we knew the cranial nerves and all the different communication parts that have to deal with like the brain and anatomy. And I was really nervous. But since that spring before, I took anatomy class, that definitely prepared me for that exam, and I was able to pass it, and I didn't have to take their version of neurology that following fall. So that helped me a lot. Phonetics is something that pops up to me with Trish, who was a professor there who taught phonetics for the post-bac program. During my articulation class, they were talking so much about phonetics, and some of the girls that did an undergrad in communication disorders, they kind of forgot about phonetics, because for them, that was like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. But for me, it was literally last year. And so it was so fresh in my mind, and it just really prepared me. I didn't feel like I was left behind.
Wonderful. We also have our program coordinator, Professor Kimberly Caffarella here. Kim, do you have any questions for Lena?
Hmm. First of all, it's so great to see you again.
I know.
I
It's so good
know.
to see you too.
Love
She's off to
reconnecting.
Costa Rica next week.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, that's exciting.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, no, I love reconnecting with students. I guess I'm just kind of curious to hear. I know you kind of talked about how the post-bac prepared you. I guess I'm just kind of curious to hear, like, what are your just impressions of your first year of grad school? Like, how is that going? How is that different? Obviously the goal of the post-bac is to prepare you for grad school, but I'm kind of curious, like, what has been your experience with grad school? How is it similar or maybe a little different from being in the post-bac program?
I think one similarity, and it's a great similarity, is just the fact that their staff and their professors as well, they want you to succeed,
Mhm.
and they're always are there to help. Their doors are open, their offices are open, and very similar to you guys, like your doors were always open if we needed any questions. Really, if you're feeling stressed, we can just go to them. We were able to go to you. And that's something that I'm so blessed to say, that I was able to go to two schools to have that type of environment and that support. But of course, the big difference, it's a lot more work. I'm a lot busier than I was. With the post-bac, I was taking around like 3 classes each semester,
Mhm.
and like
Mhm.
2 in the summer. But now it's like 5, plus, clinic and doing my rotations and things like that. So I'm a lot busier now. It is a little bit more challenging, of course, but I was already expecting that. I was going into grad school. And now it's a lot about applying what I learned, not only from the post-bac, but from my undergrad as well. Just kind of pulling in what I learned from psychology and those types of therapies and ethics and everything that has to deal with that. And then joining, with the post-bac program and what I learned, and just applying everything that I have learned so far in my life and applying it into what I'm learning here. So that's one difference for sure.
All right. I don't think I have any other questions. I'm just so glad to hear grad school is going well for you. Like really our goal with post-bac, we try to structure it so it's preparing students for grad school, but also at the same time easing students in, since we
Mm-hmm.
know that oftentimes, we do have students that have been out of school for a little while, which was also your
Yes.
case. And sometimes we have career changers, or typically it's career changers. We kind of try to find that balance between
Mm-hmm.
for our students so that they're, getting the rigor, but also getting the support they need to kind of make that transition into the field of speech language pathology. So thank
I
you so
mean,
much for sharing.
Yeah, I'm something that I do want to add to, like, the transition was like perfect. I was out of school, like you said, and some of the other students were, and starting that summer with classes a little bit, and then getting three, and then spring semester was a little bit harder, especially with the anatomy class because it was so much information. It was like slowly transitioning me back into that school mode. So by the time I started the fall for my grad program, it was a little harder, but it was kind of like a stepping, like one step at a time. And by the time I got to the fall, it was just like another step. It wasn't like this huge leap. So it did prepare me in that sense of just kind of, dusting off the gears a little bit. So it was helpful in that regard as well.
Lena, it is so nice to hear from you, and we're so happy for you. And have fun on your study abroad trip to Costa Rica next week. I'll try to put in a little of the information when we first talked about it into the interview. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.